The Ancien Régime and the Enlightenment. This is the first unit of all of it. What are we going to learn in this unit? We are going to study what happened in Europe during the 17th and 18th century. What is the evolution from the Ancien Régime to the liberalism in politics, economy, and society, and also what happened in Spain during this century with the change of dynasty to the Bourbons. The Ancien Régime, the first thing is to talk about a definition. It's that period that covers the 18th and 17th century, the 17th and 18th centuries in Europe, characterized for an absolute monarchy, the mercantilism in economy, and the states of the realm in society. First of all, we need to know what are absolute monarchies. These are the ones that are going to predominate in Western Europe. It was called absolute because the crown was unlimited, had unlimited authority, which was believed to come from God. That you can see there, the main characteristics is the theories based on the theory of the divine origin of their power, and also it's this based on the centralization of the administration. The monarch, the king, controlled everything, the economy, the army, and their orders were obeyed throughout their kingdom. The example of absolutism in Europe is this man here, Louis XIV. He is the main example of the absolute monarchy. He reigned during the end of the 17th and the beginning of the 18th century. He was also known as the Sun King, and he controlled all the powers of the state government, created an efficient public administration, tax system, etc. He lived here in Versailles. Okay, it's a huge palace, very decorated in the inside, where he celebrated his parties and he showed his power. Do you remember we watched this part of the film during the class and think about the different questions related to this video. Okay, so related to the politics, I want you to think about, can you think of any advantages of having an absolute monarchy? Not only from the point of view of the people, but also from the king. If you see any advantages from the point of view of the king, and why is an absolute monarchy not considered to be an appropriate form of government today? Okay, I want you to think about these two questions according to politics. Before we move on, I wanted to talk about the parliamentary monarchy. In two countries, in England and in the United Provinces, the political, economic, and social system changed. And the objective, the main aim, was limiting the power of the kings. This happened in England. In England, Charles I faced opposition from the parliament when he tried to rule as an absolute monarch. This led to a civil war between the supporters of the king, that were called the royalists, and the supporters of the parliamentarians. Charles I was defeated and executed, and in 1649 a republic was established under the control of parliamentarian commander Oliver Cromwell. After Cromwell's death, the absolute monarchy was re-established under Charles II, who was followed by James II. So we have this first attempt in the revolution of the 1640, where the king, Charles I, and the parliamentarians fought together. The parliamentarians were the ones that won, and Charles I was executed. After that first attempt, the absolute monarchy was reestablished. In 1688, tensions between Parliament and James II, the new king, led to what we know as a glorious revolution. The Parliament offered the throne to the William of Orange, that is the one that you have in the big painting here. He swore to uphold the Bill of Rights, a document written by the Parliament which became the precedent for similar documents in other countries. This led to the establishment of the parliamentary monarchy, in which the monarch's powers were limited by the Parliament. We have another example that were the United Provinces. These United Provinces were a republic made up of 7 provinces, each of which had its own parliament. Then these 7 provinces sent representatives to the States General to take decisions on shared issues. These were 2 examples different from the absolute monarchs that reigned in the rest of Europe. You have a video here where James, our assistant from last year, explained just a little bit the main differences between the absolutism and the parliamentarism. I want you now to stop and think about why do you think the replacement of the absolute monarchy with the parliamentary monarchy is considered a political progress. Think about the 17th or 18th century. You have to think about a parliamentary monarchy in the 17th century, not from nowadays. How was the economy and the society during the Ancien Régime? The Ancien Régime economy had the following characteristics. First of all, they continue having traditional agriculture with very low production. Agriculture was not commercial. People farmed to meet their own needs and used outdated techniques and tools. The dominance of the guilds, these associations, if you remember from last year, these were associations of craftsmen in the same trade that regulated aspects such as working hours, prices, wages, and tools, and avoid competition and stop them from progress. The domestic trade grew very little due to the internal custom duties and the poor quality of the roads. The lack of communications, it was very important. However, foreign trade was expanding due to the discovery of America and the establishment of new sea routes to Asian markets. These developments led to the establishment of large empires, such as the Spanish and Portuguese Empire, and the expansion of trade routes in the Atlantic and Indian Oceans. During this era, the economic system that ruled was what we call the mercantilism. It was based on the idea that the country's wealth depended on how much gold and silver it possessed. In order to accumulate more of these precious metals, monarchs implemented protectionist policies. They limited imports and encouraged exports by making foreign products very expensive. This way, they hoped to keep gold and silver in the country. According to the society, we have a division of the society that we call the states of the realm. This is the same as we studied last year. It's divided in the privileged groups, the first and second states, the nobility and the clergy. They keep their economic power and their political privilege. And on the other hand, we have the third state. They have to pay taxes. We have inside the non-privileged, the third state, we have a lot of different groups of people. And the first, we have the bourgeoisie. There are merchants, business owners. They were richer and richer and richer and more powerful. Then we have the petit bourgeoisie, that it's the merchants, craftsmen, okay, and the peasantry and the laborers. They're going to suffer, they're going to be the ones that suffer more during this era. On the other hand, we have to, although in politics, in economy, we don't have a very important development, and philosophy, science, and art in these centuries, we start to have a very rich cultural part, okay? Some of the things that we have to mention is the empiricism, rationalism, the appearance of the scientific method. According to this, for example, knowledge of chemistry, medicine, or the science could be acquired and tested by following these steps: observation, measurements, the establishment of our hypothesis, the demonstration or refutation of that hypothesis, and the presentation of conclusions. In science, we have names as Galileo, Newton, etc., that made a lot of new discoveries, etc. And in art, we have the Baroque art with names as Velázquez, Rembrandt, Caravaggio, etc. This is the first part of the unit that is based on the Ancien Régime, the absolute monarchies, and how it's organized in politics, in the economy, and in society mainly. You have to understand that during this period, although in Europe the most important political system is the absolute monarchy, we have two examples of parliamentary monarchies that are England and the United Provinces. In the next video, we will talk about what happened in the 18th century, that it's the beginning of the Enlightenment, and how the Enlightenment would change in politics, in the society, and the economy.